I think, yeah, this is more of the 3D imaging that they've been able to find right here.
So are those high peaks like the folds?
Well, actually, okay, these parts right here, these triangular parts, are from a fire because it was folded up.
Oh.
So that's what that's from. And so, I mean, it kind of shows you that it was almost miraculously saved from destruction. You know, the places that.
Interesting.
So it was all one corner that got burned up. But both sides of the face and the entirety of the body are evenly lit, which indicates that the source which made the image was not light in its normal external form. So that basically there's no shadows. And the image also has no outlines, which artists always use. And this has led many artists who have examined the shroud to declare that from an artistic perspective, it is technically impossible. The supposed artist would have had to create the entire image freehand without any outlines of the body to guide his work. So even there's an artistic technique called pointillism, where you just do little points, and even that uses an outline. Okay, then the right shoulder has been, which would be up here, has been dislocated due to severe trauma, possibly the flagellation or the carrying of the cross or both. And this is why the right hand is further down than the left, and even touches the edge of the left thigh, so it wouldn't have, normally it wouldn't have been able to touch that, which would, so that would have been, naturally it would have been higher up. And the left hand also has gone into a claw posture because of the nailing of the wrist. And the fact that the nails are in the wrist, that's something that the medievals kind of forgot, most medieval depictions of the crucifixion. So, you know, that does accord with Roman practice that it's in the wrist.
Wasn't Da Vinci also super weird and did it and found that you couldn't hold up body weight?
Oh yeah.
Through that?
And he was.
Yeah, he did. He nailed a body to a cross to see if it could be done, and they fell through when he did it on the hands, but the wrist they stayed up.
Right. Well, because he got the bones of the.
Yeah.
But he was after the time that we have the earliest documentation of the shroud, so he wouldn't have been able to influence.
Right.
And the crossing of the hands at the pubis rather than above it, which would naturally be up here, is due to excessive traction of the arms during the crucifixion and the suspension upon the cross. Okay, the state of stains from blood and serum from the wound on the side indicate that the subject already was dead before he received the wound. So we have the wound from where he was punctured. And blood marks at the two far ends correlate with each other as the wounds upon the feet when the shroud is folded over upon itself, so at the top and the bottom. As now, the anatomy of the man, you might claim, oh, it looks like this man is 6'8" in the front and 6'10" on the back, but actually when they, no, he's not 6'7". That's what you
I'm so sorry, it was Pierre Barbet, not Da Vinci.
Okay, oh yeah, there's the whole length of it right here. And so it folds over. And so the feet and the wounds correspond. But, okay, here's the next thing that I think is the next. Okay, yeah, the crown of thorns. They have, oh yeah, this is all the flagellation on the back. And then you've got the crown of thorns there too. And he's actually, when they make the, this thing, this is an anatomical sort of cast of it. He's really only 5'11", because of the cloth wrapping around the contours of his.
That would add some
so that
your average first century Jew would not have been 6'8".
Could the shroud also have been like stretched
5'10" would
like
still been probably taller than usual.
So yeah, this is the model of how he was laid out. And it's got the images. It tells you where all the blood is.
That's something I think about. Like, I'm taller than Jesus.
Was he laid out with his knees up, like due to rigor?
Well, it probably would have been kind of like a rigor mortis.
Yeah.
But this is they've taken the information from the image and they said that this is how his body wound up being. And again, something else they discovered in 2016 is that the very tip of the right thumb is faintly visible, and you've got to use digital enlargements, underneath the index finger in a non-relaxed position that is indicative of rigor mortis, especially as a result of the piercing of the wrist again. And this image is so faint it's invisible to the naked eye, which again sort of disproves the forger theory. Now, our little bonus thing, remember we talked about the towel that was around his head being wrapped up in a different place. Okay, that is the Sudarium of Oviedo, which is in Spain. That's a separate relic, yes.
Wow.
And we do have historical records of this all the way back at least to the 7th century in Palestine.
How do you spell that?
Okay, Sudarium is Sudarium of Oviedo, Oviedo. So we do have a lot of historical record of this, and it eventually made its way to Spain. And the blood in this relic, so it's big, it's like a face wrap, is type AB, and it matches the blood in the shroud.
Wow.
And it also has Palestinian pollen and residues of myrrh and aloe in it. And the stains in this, in the Sudarium, indicate that the man was in an upright position when they put it, because they would have put it on his head when he died to cover up his face. And that later they can tell from the way that the blood is that he was laid face down, so they took him down off the cross and you saw the face.
Blood would congeal.
And the length of the nose on the Sudarium matches exactly the length of the nose on the shroud. And there are over 120 blood stains and serum stains that align between the Sudarium of Oviedo and the shroud. So it all matches up. So our discussion question is like, how can we use the shroud? How can we use the info about the shroud? And does the resurrection claim stand or fall on the shroud? Like how do you think we as Christians?
The second question.
Do the resurrection claims? Okay. In a sense, you want to hold it a little bit gently, because suppose you base your whole argument on the shroud, and then at some point, then it turned out it was proven beyond a doubt to be false. So you kind of want to use the shroud as sort of bonus material. It's like when you get the DVD, you get the bonus material. But the story is in the Gospels, and there's enough evidence in the Gospels, and there is some, as we talked about, there are mentions of Jesus and the resurrection outside of the Gospel. But this is like the fun bonus content, and when you study it, your mind will explode. Like especially when you relate it with the Sudarium, and you see that it's got all. And they can also, so the reason that the image isn't on the Sudarium is because they would lay him out and then they would pull the head covering, the face covering off. And that's why it's folded up in a different place. So the image was not there. It was, and remember in the Gospels, the Gospel accounts, they went in and they saw the linen cloth here and then the linen around his head somewhere else. So if you were, trying to explain somebody who's on the fence about the resurrection, I mean, do you think you would use, if somebody's like, I need proof, I need to be able to touch him and see him with my own eyes, do you think the shroud would be helpful?
I would not, because I wouldn't want to concede to this person that proof of a historical event needs to be something that you can hold. I would look to the testimonial evidence, like the minimal facts that you've gone through, a whole lot more than this. I think, you put it well with treating it as the bonus material. I think this just adds to an already knocked down case.
I slightly disagree. I feel like if a person is on the fence, I'd rather them have something to think about and chew on about Christianity, and maybe that helps them look back to the testimonies and relate it to the gospel rather than just say, oh, that's BS and move on with their lives.
Right. I think it depends on why.
It depends on the person. It depends on the situation.
A lot of these things you have to be able to test your audience. I think one of my, well, maybe we'll say what did you find most interesting about the shroud? One of my favorite details is about the dirt on the nose, and like not only from a scientific perspective, from a devotional perspective as well. That he fell flat on his face and he was carrying the cross. And then I think the thing that really blows my mind is about the blood being on there, going all the way through, the blood being on there before the image.
Okay, I'm maybe missing something, but like with the like, so for me, like I wouldn't like if someone was on the fence of like if Jesus resurrected, I wouldn't really use the Shroud of Turin because it's like. Because the person, they wouldn't be able to argue, like, okay, so we have Jesus, we have his burial, like, his burial cloth, but, like, what is that? Like, that doesn't prove that he resurrected. So I guess I'm like, how would you use it as proof that he,
It's kind of interesting that you bring that up because the best website is this, I think it's called shroud.com.
That's funny.
This guy who was a photographer who worked on this STIRT project, which was the one where they took the tapes. That was about 10 years before the carbon dating. And he's Jewish.
Yeah, he's not a Christian.
Yeah.
He thinks it's authentic.
He thinks it's authentic. But he explained that he wants to be the caretaker for this kind of, because it's so important. In a sense, as a Jew, he wants to be someone who's not promoting it for an agenda.
Right.
Because I'm mostly kind of, I don't know, because after tonight, I definitely like you said, like for me, it's probably beyond a doubt. Okay, I definitely don't think it's a hoax or something, but yeah, it's if you rely on it too much, I don't if someone's on the fence with Jesus, I don't see how this would be the final thing that would get them to believe. And then it's if that's why they believe in Jesus because of the shroud, then is that really the most stable foundation? So
maybe Thomas should have believed his friends. Maybe that's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah, I think Thomas should have believed, especially his friends, and when Jesus explicitly said he told him 3 days, I'm gonna, he said he was gonna I'm not gonna drink until I dine with you in 3 days. But I don't know, it's one of those things where if it was proven beyond a doubt to be authentic, obviously that would be awesome. But I definitely don't think it should be the foundation of somebody's faith.
I think it lends a lot of support, perhaps more than anything, to the testimony in John. Even if I can't particularly tie it to, okay, this is what you would see, or we know this is the image that would result when someone wrapped in this came back to life. I'm well, we don't actually know that. That is an explanation of a divine power bringing Jesus back to life. That would, the fact that we can't reproduce the image ourselves lends itself to that explanation. But I think the strongest point is the credibility of the testimony of John.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to share. I've got the wimpy middle ground between these two right here, because I think that it shouldn't be used necessarily to justify the faith to somebody, but I think that this sort of idea is instrumental in how you approach the faith and being able to share it, because I think we get very abstract and we kind of forget Jesus was a real man. He walked the earth, and when real people exist, real things follow their existence. And I think, like you said, you can look at the historical evidence, and so it's kind of for me, even as a Christian who believes it, it's very eerie. It's surreal. It makes me very uncomfortable seeing it.
Because it really did happen.
And also because I don't. It's like the idea of there's all these caricatures of Santa, and then you kind of get used to Coke Santa or this Santa, and it's like, so we have all these depictions of Jesus, which I got another thing about that, but we've got all these depictions of Jesus, so to stare at it and think like I might be looking at the face of God is very surreal.
Right.
Like on a TV, the face of God.
Right.
And also just, you know, and it's like, and he's naked. He's laying there naked. So.
Well, actually, this is the scandal part. That I didn't know. They actually have been able to see his privy member.
Oh wow.
They've been able to, that's an alternative way for saying his penis. But like, it's there on the shroud. It's like poking out.
I didn't want to ask, but I was wondering.
It is. It's poking out a little bit from behind his hands.
And, and also, it's weird to
He
me,
was a man.
like,
It's been
we don't have to ask pronouns.
Right.
And like the other thing, looking at the statue, like the way he's laying, I think of like the baby Jesus, and it's like just so clearly you can see the development of like laying in the manger to laying there.
Right.
It's like and I think how quickly like it feels like little kids become men, and it's like, and here's the Son of God, here is God, you know, little kid to man. But anyways, just I have a hard time like staying realistic and pragmatic and like historically relevant instead of abstract, because like that, I think that's the biggest thing that people tear down your faith with, because they start doing these hypotheticals of like, well, what would Jesus say to this? You know, could you really believe in a God that would do this? And it's like, well, I can tell you what Jesus actually did. He was a real person. And so I really like the Shroud a lot. And the other thing, two things I thought of, trying to stall on the second one. The first thing was you mentioned the dirt on the nose, and I think about the parallel, the symbolism of when priests prostrate themselves to be ordained. You know, I'd imagine that your nose comes close, if not to actually touching the ground.
You are laying.
Well, what you're sitting there, you're thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be devout, but you're thinking, what do I do with my nose? It sounds really good.
Yeah. And so it's like, you know, that adds a whole layer. Like that's what I love about the faith is it's like if there is truth, and that was the other thing, that if God is truth, then there should be clarity and definition. The more
He's not the God of confusion.
Exactly. And so it's like when I look at the Shroud, I don't need it for my faith to be true, but it has all the symptoms of something that would come from God, because it's clear, defined, and it's not offensive. I don't know how to word it. It's like, it's very humble. And what was the other thing?
You were gonna complain about depictions of Jesus.
Oh, no. Actually, the opposite.
Okay.
I remember the first time you mentioned the Shroud and I was looking at it, it was very eerie for me to see specifically the Eastern tradition, how their icons so closely resemble the Shroud. And I think that's really weird. But I've always heard it said that, like, you know, the West was the logic and the reason, and the East was this, you know, the more artistic, mystical. So I think it's also fitting that if there was a group of Christians who would preserve the image most closely, in my mind it checks out that it would be the Eastern rites or Eastern traditions. So I don't know if you've thought about that, but that's my 2 cents. Hi everybody. Hi Ricky.
Do you guys care? I feel like if I'm not
I don't care.
I'm
It
just like
took me
talking
few
to a
minutes
wall.
realize-
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want me to hold it while you talk? So you
Well,
can
I
talk to
wasn't
them?
gonna talk, but if I want to later on, I'll give it to you.
Okay, well, be sure to mash that subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like this video. Okay, do we have anything else?
What was the second question?
Yeah, you had another question.
Oh, well, I got
Your
to use.
most interesting.
Oh yeah, what was your most interesting detail?
Oh boy.
Well, you liked all that science.
I did. I had such a fun time with it. Like, honestly, like, I was literally talking about some of these compounds in my organic chemistry class, like, a couple weeks ago. And, like, coming back to it now is fantastic for me, so I've just had a blast here.
Okay. You
But
raise your hand and you say, did you know some of these things were on the Shroud of Turin?
I did not, because I didn't know, but now
No,
I
you
do.
can tell the professor
I'll
that.
take her for coffee and tell her.
Forgetting
Am I
your
back to
face.
being a videographer? Okay.
Anybody else?
I think my favorite fact is the thinness of the image.
Right.
The thing that deals a knockout blow to anything being painted on that. Because if you're laying paint across there, it's not gonna be a thousandth of an inch thick or however thin it was.
Also, like, the absence of shadows was just, like, so symbolic to me,
Right.
at least in my mind. Like, that is
Light.
light. That is literally the
Yeah.
light.
Yeah. There was a really good chapter on the Shroud of Turin in the, it was the Festschrift for Gary Habermas called Raised on the Third Day. The photographer that was on the Stirk project wrote a chapter on the Shroud, and he gave like a minimal fact style argument for the authenticity of the Shroud. Is 20-something facts. I think you went through a bunch of them that just defy any explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you have any of your favorite facts about the Shroud, be sure to drop them in the comments. Anybody else? All right, well, thanks for joining us.